There have been many famous, noteworthy, and highly educated people who've gone on to accomplish profound things. Think Stephen Hawking, Steve Jobs, Nikola Tesla, and Blaise Pascal. They were famous for their inventions, scientific and mathematic theories, and IQ. The interesting trend in their value is not anything educational, it's in how they use their mind. Pascal, for example, who died at the age of 39, had a deeply spiritual experience in his 20s that drew him away from the sciences and more into consciousness. Before he died, he had shared some of his learnings and parts of his soul in a later publication called Penis. In the book, you'll find Pascal's recollection of what it was like to transition from the scholastic to the spiritual. But interestingly, you'll also find plenty of thoughts on what it means to be a human being. This points to the dissection of humankind, of the kinks and psychological flaws in humanity. This is dating hundreds of years back, and like the writings of Abraham Hicks or Eckhart Tolle, Pascal makes several thought-provoking and self-aware statements, but perhaps one of the most potent being this: all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. In that quote, Pascal points to the fear of silence, the fear of nothingness, of no mind space. When we're bored, we're constantly seeking to stimulate and distract our mind. And we do this by scrolling through social media or overeating, involving ourselves in drama and other ways. The mind provides us with a false sense of security, one that blocks us from our own potential and keeps our emotion and fear suppressed. To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Lao Tzu. Consumption is a dangerous game. Today more than ever, the mass majority of humans are consumers. Technology has taken us over, and we're essentially all slaves to it. And we may feel connected to one another by a distant, inauthentic means. Of course, this has had its fair share of benefit, but its very many downsides have begun to show. And aside from all the frightening findings of data collection and privacy breaches, the most frightening side effect has been this: we've been living in a world where we are connected to everything but ourselves. What Pascal spoke to be true 400-something years ago is now magnified by the thousands. With each tech advancement, app, or bright and shiny electronic toy, why turn them away to go into your own mind? Sounds boring, right? But what's true is there's a significant difference here between being alone and feeling alone. And the more hesitant that you are to being alone, the more that you will feel alone, and the less you will know about yourself. From there, you are just sucked right back into the consumer's world, hungrily searching to fill a void that you don't understand. This is a familiar feeling anyone will understand. But the more that you turn away from the discomfort that you feel from sitting with yourself in solitude, the more uncomfortable you will feel. It doesn't just go away with the swipe of a button. We've come so far from the truth of who we are, and the world's current state has shown us that. For hundreds of years, people have been walking around with a false sense of who they are, what their purpose is, and instead hiding behind a mask titled, "My name is X, I work for X, I enjoy X." At its core, it's not necessarily that we're addicted to a TV set, because there's something uniquely satisfying about it. Just like we're not addicted to most stimulants, because the benefits outweigh the downsides. Rather, what we're really addicted to is a state of not being bored. Almost anything else that controls our life in an unhealthy way finds its roots in our realization that we dread the nothingness of nothing. We can't imagine just being rather than doing, and therefore we look for entertainment. We seek company, and if those fail, we chase even higher highs. We ignore the fact that never facing this nothingness is the same as never facing ourselves. And never facing ourselves is why we feel lonely and anxious, in spite of being so intimately connected to everything else around us. What we're really addicted to is fear, which may even represent itself through boredom. The human mind finds it difficult to imagine being still versus moving fast, and so we find distraction, no matter the means, constantly chasing a high, a hit of dopamine. It's very similar to a drug addiction, and it's the refusal to sit with ourselves that keeps us feeling lonely. It's the disconnection from tech and media that brings us further into connection with ourselves and others. Facing this fear is the only way to overcome it. Sitting with your fears, your loneliness, and your own thoughts. When you can see the issues and fears that you've used to distract yourself from, you're able to unmask them and understand yourself better to move forward in life. Becoming still allows for complete awareness outside of your distractions. It's almost as if the world becomes a beautiful stimulation where you see things as they truly are. You also become very aware of the awe of stillness and how very not boring it really is. This isn't to say it's filled with wonder and butterflies and beauty. No, sometimes it's the total opposite. Introspection forces you to face a lot of your deepest stuff that you've distracted yourself from for so long. But in the long run, you'll find the beauty that came along with refusing to distract yourself. And many of the self-limiting beliefs and internal conflicts you once had seemingly fall away too. As the digital world continues to dominate in the coming years, it will try to drag our minds with it too. And Pascal wasn't far off from the truth, that with all of the evolution of things meant to connect us further, we've become isolated, far from our instinctual ever-connected ways. Until we realize that our addiction to distraction is unmet fear, we'll never really get to know ourselves and bear the fruit of life. The most ancient philosophers spoke of the power of stillness and still practices such as meditation. And there's a good reason why. If you don't know thyself, there isn't much that you do know. In the grand scope, connecting to yourself is the most valuable skill that you can have. But it's certainly not one that you will ever learn in school. And while stillness may not be the only medicine to heal yourself and the rest of the world, it's certainly a fantastic place to start. Now check out this video, Be Transformed by the Renewing of Your Mind.